Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Partnerships for Profit. I'm your host, Ana Del Rio, and this week we're joined by Karen Gamba, CEO of ExV Agency, ExV Events, and ExV Studios, and founder of the Global Housing Summit. Karen is known for designing curated experiences that connect leaders, investors, and changemakers across continents. Follow her journey at ExV Agency and at the Housing Summit as she shares how to build the right room where real partnerships are born. Hi, Karen. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Anna. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. And we were talking before, the show started, and you're calling in from Hong Kong. I love that you are overseas right now. And thank you so much for taking the time. I know I can only imagine how late it is over there again. So, all right, Karen. So tell us more about yourself, how you got your start, where you started, and all of that.
Yeah, so I'll try and keep it relatively concise. I actually started out my career working in law firms in New York City. So I kind of learned client development and client curation working for some law firms that were pretty international. I think that was what kind of started the fire under me, that I really was interested in building cross-cultural relationships. And as you and I were speaking before, I do have a very kind of diverse background. I was born in South Africa, and I went to school overseas. I settled in New York, and now I'm in Hong Kong. But working for those law firms with international legal groups, I realized that I kind of had a knack for positioning people at the table that we're having kind of different conversations, not just putting people together for events that, ended up in a networking hour with cheese and wine, but actually left people with some deliverables and valuable conversations and partnerships. Around 2015, I decided I was going to start my own shop. And there were different factors that spurred me on for this. First of all, I wasn't actually seeing a lot of diversity at some of these events and conferences. And by that, I mean, I wasn't seeing a lot of women on stage. I was going to a lot of these corporate conferences, and I saw a lot of men on stage, and I wasn't seeing junior people. And this is kind of how my brain works, right? I like to put a lot of cross collaboration and kind of throw things into a blender that don't usually fit. And this is something that I always tell my clients, is that the types of things I'm going to propose to you might actually scare you a little bit, but this is how you uncover beyond just your target audience, because you're leaving things on the table. So I started out my PR and media business by doing these bespoke events, and I was inviting the kinds of people that were usually slipping through the cracks. And a lot of these people had so much value to offer. And not only did it elevate their profiles, but it elevated the profiles of their firms and the communities they were building. And that kind of just fueled me with even more fire to take this even further. But that's kind of how it happened. It was the law firms, seeing the lawyers in action, being able to attend these international conferences and seeing what was happening there, hearing what people were talking about, really listening into pain points. And many of them were talking about, we're kind of seeing the same faces over and over. And within that, I saw an opportunity.
That's great. That's great. I love how you speak on diversity, because that is, especially in today's, climate, that's very, very important. And I love that you're bringing, these people, the ones, the lost souls. I don't know, but the ones that get, kind of on the wayside, and bring that up. So how do you bring together these collaborations? What do you do in that?
I'll give you I'm happy to actually give you a case study of something that worked very well for us. So a couple of years ago, we actually sold out this event in New York City. There is a venue called Webster Hall, and it's an old concert venue, and that's what it is. Everyone from the Rolling Stones, there were huge bands that played there, right down to the Jonas Brothers, right? Cool. So they were known as a concert venue. We approached the venue, and we were like, have you considered having corporate or other events here? During the day, this space is dark, At night, you have
Right.
people in here for events. What if we brought people in to use the space in a different way? This is something you can monetize and also showcase your venue in a different way. They kind of scratched their heads. They were like, that makes no sense. We're a concert venue. And this is what I was
Yeah.
talking about. People don't realize that they're leaving things on the table, right? There was an opportunity. We were able to pull off the event. And within this event, it was an event planning expo. It was a brunch.
Oh,
We didn't only put leaders of industry in the events industry, senior executives that were running their own venues for years. We brought in junior people to the stage because the
great.
thing I found that works really well for these events is when you're cross-selling ideas across ranges of people in different areas of their career. Young professionals have so much to add to us who are kind of set in our ways and we think we know everything, right? I mean, I was one conversation, and as I mentioned, this was a couple of years ago, where someone said, "What the heck is TikTok?" And I said to myself in that moment, this is a very senior woman in her position,
Yeah.
very successful. But I mean, being able to have this conversation with someone that was opening up this idea of put your venue out in a different way, do this TikTok thing. And it was really interesting to me to see these more senior people leaning in, listening to the younger professionals, really being able to give these younger professionals, you could see them kind of coming into their own and feeling more confident because
Love
usually they
it.
see men or people as mentors and never that they
Mhm.
have the opportunity to sit on a stage with them. It was a huge event. We sold out almost 700 seats, and we had people
Wow.
calling us saying, "How do we get a ticket to this event? And when's the next one?" And so I think that's kind of by taking this kind of different approach and backing into ideas and concepts and placing something on the table that clients or people haven't really thought of or considered,
Mhm.
starting to have that conversation and showing how it might work. They don't always have to say yes right away, but I
Mhm.
have found that if you give people enough time, they usually circle back and they're like, okay, maybe if we do this on a smaller scale, let's see, or let's continue the conversation. So I am very much, I don't like to use the word disruptor because I feel like it's overused, but I am someone that think about all the stuff you put into a blender and then blend it up.
Mhm.
I'm the chaos in the blender.
I love that. You like to shake things up. That's
I
great.
do. I don't
No, that's
want the
excellent.
same old. That's what it is.
No, exactly. And that's a testament to what, you're global. So that being said, you built global rooms that make deals happen, right? So
Yeah.
what is the secret in creating that right room, not just a big one, like in the right room? What is your secret?
So I think it's about starting small. I mentioned this event that was over 700 people, but the most success I've had are small curated events. And there's certain factors you really have to consider when you want to do something successful. Look, if you want to do an event where it's just, I want to get X amount of people in a room, do a panel discussion or whatever it is you're doing, followed by breakfast or a cheese and wine or a networking hour, that's absolutely fine. But if you want an outcomes driven event, you have to be much, much more strategic than that, right? So you really have to research what some topics of interest are. So I tell people to go and look at what people are doing that are doing similar conferences or having similar topics of conversation that you're interested in. And now with our chat GPTs and our AI, it's very easy to run comparative and competitive analysis, right?
Right.
So I'm not talking about if you're starting out and you want to do something in the mold of a Forbes conference or something very high level.
Mhm.
You can still learn lessons from it, right? You
Oh,
maybe don't
absolutely.
have a $7 million budget for your event, but you can see what they're doing right. And then think about the metaphor of the blender and saying, they're talking about all this stuff, but here's the things they're not talking about. Look at the people that they have lined up at their event. Look at the speakers, and then look at similar speakers within your community that are doing similar things that maybe don't have as much of a platform, but they still have a community. They're still making an impact, and they're still kind of driving the message home. So not only when you reach out to people who are not going to cost you a giant fee for speaking engagement fees, you're not only giving them a platform, you're breaking into their networks and communities as well. And when you give people a platform with authenticity and humility and you bring them into something you're building, you're going to build a relationship that's going to be there till the end of time. So I say to people, when you're building something, start small, run some kind of comparative or competitive analysis, see what other people are doing, and don't do the same thing. Look at the things that they're not touching on. Have conversations with people out there. If you are able to access those higher level speakers, talk to them and say, what are people not asking you about? What are the things you want to talk about? What would you want this room to know about your work or your platform? And that's kind of where the shift happens. Because if it's a private equity conference, for instance, I don't just talk about the things that are happening or trending right now. I talk about the things that uncomfortably sometimes keep people up at night. Like, what are the things that you're concerned about for the immediate future? What are the things that you know could have a solution? If you know something takes 4 years, but you have a 90-day solution, how do we pull that off? And so I do kind of get a little personal when it comes to this. And I think that's what makes the difference. If you're putting together an event with high-level speakers or even lower level speakers who have a platform and you're just doing more of the same, your event might be successful, but the impact is not going to be what it could be, and it won't have your imprint of it on it. And I think that's the most important thing. Make it your own. That's how you brand something, is when your personality and your values are really poured into it, because that's how you connect and that's how you build these international relationships.
That authenticity is really the key. I mean, being genuine, and because people can feel that. They wholeheartedly can feel it and can tell when you're acting or when you're being fake, and that's very, I love that. So give me an idea of the people that you are helping, though. Like, who comes to you, seeking your assistance?
I am what is known as a cross-industry professional. I work across industries from tech to finance to legal to fashion to self-published authors to institutional investment banks. I work with everyone and everyone in between. I mean, if I told you some of the clients I've had, you wouldn't believe me. We've had a medium, we have had, and I'm talking about a psychic medium.
Yeah.
We have had people who were involved. I'm not going to get into it, but here's the thing. I just realized I probably shouldn't talk about some of this stuff.
No.
But I basically work across industries, right? So the one thing that kind of drives me is the intersection I find myself at now. And I'll explain that, because as much as I work with for-profit businesses, a big part of my business is also nonprofit. So I sit at that intersection of nonprofit and social impact and the for-profit world. This happened kind of organically. During the COVID-19 pandemic, when we couldn't do in-person events anymore, we kind of volunteered to help nonprofits do digital fundraisers because they couldn't do their in-person galas.
Wow.
So we used to do these really incredible, like edited Hollywood-style events where we would draw people in to do fundraising, and they would donate, and it would be live, and we'd put these skits in, comedy skits. One of the most impactful clients I work now, he has a funny story where it was this butter-related company, bread and butter-related company, was their logo, and he actually dressed up like a slice of toast and was dancing around and singing.
I love that.
So, it's like during the COVID pandemic, when everybody felt so disconnected and kind of lost as to what do we do now, especially people that were in the events industry or the nonprofit industry, where that annual gala was everything to them, being able to take the initiative to say, we cannot do events, but we're not going to sit around. Let's see what we can do to help these folks out. And it worked really well for us. And that's kind of where my background in legal, corporate banking kind of started intersecting with the nonprofit world. Because at the end of the day, nonprofits are also businesses, which means they have to make money. If they want to make an impact in their communities, they need business plans. They need to know how to raise funds. They need to know how to invest funds and how to have conversations with donors. Just like a client at an investment bank sometimes comes to me and says, I need to know how to uncover a conversation with this type of client. Most of my clients that I've worked with are over 50, but now the younger generation's taking over their family office or whatever it is, and their ideals have changed. How do I have that conversation? How do I bridge that divide? So I cover a lot of ground, and a lot of what I do is I often say to my mom, I should have become some kind of corporate psychologist, because at the end of the day, all of these conversations, whether you're in business or you're working for some giant company or firm, or tech company, or whatever it is, the connections you make, whether it's partnerships or a merger and acquisition, whatever it is, has to be human at the end of the day. That's why with all of this AI taking over, I think being able to know how to have conversations with the types of people you want to connect with, whether that's at large scale or you're just sending out a newsletter or corporate messaging, whatever it is, you have to find a way to connect with people in the most human way possible, which is why I'm saying don't just follow the lead of the trends and what people are talking about. Find the things that make people uncomfortable or hopeful, or and don't just talk about the negative things that are happening in the world, because that can connect people, but it'll draw you down a rabbit hole that's not so positive. Talk about the solutions and how you can find solutions together. So within that world of the types of clients I represent, I found that the thing that binds us is this very inherent need to continue to connect with people and connect as, I think, vulnerably as possible. I think people are really tired of having that wall up and saying, oh, I'm the CEO of this giant company and everybody looks at me like I should have all of my stuff together. But there are things I don't know. And I want to be able to say to someone, I have no idea what this term means. I've never known what it meant. And I just never knew how to say it. So I tried to facilitate those conversations. I tried to make sure that no matter what the ROI or end goal is, that every single person I talk to, it's a human conversation. Because once I start having those conversations, it changes the goalpost. Because then they're like, maybe that's not what I want. Maybe that's what I thought I wanted for my company or for my business. Maybe it's not. And then the other thing that's really important to me is to align with companies that do have a social impact initiative involved. I will not work with companies that don't have some diversity and equity and inclusion program. I know that's a little taboo to say nowadays, but I do think that whatever that means to you, having representation at your company is only going to make you stronger. As you get people together who come from different backgrounds and perspectives, it's going to make your business stronger. They're going to know how to weather storms that you don't know how to weather. And that's why it's important to build an ecosystem where people at your table really understand that they're valued as employees. That's what stops the fight or flight from losing employees over the years. It's making sure that every single person in your company understands their role and what they're working towards, and that their opinion matters, and that you have an impact, that you're doing something in the community that isn't just writing a check every year.
I love that you're making deals happen as well as breaking down walls. So that's absolutely beautiful. I'm so curious though, like you run teams across like the world, Hong Kong, New York, Atlanta. What cultural differences have taught you the most about like how people say yes?
The best thing you can do is not maybe do some research, go into a meeting and assume you know that you're prepared. Because I can guarantee you a lot of the time you're not. You never know what you're getting. And this is something I was talking to you about this particular region in the world earlier. From 10 kilometers, I'm in the metric system now.
It's okay.
From a few miles to a few more miles, you will see completely different ways of how people react and acted business. When you're doing business in the Philippines, for instance, it's very different to how you would do business in Japan. It would be very different to how you do business in London or New York. And I think the one thing that is the lesson I've learned the most is, even if you're a leader in your field and you know everything about everything that this client needs, go in and listen. Listen to them, ask the right questions, because as much as you want to say, I know how to fix your problem, I know how to fix your social media thing, I know how to get you 10,000 clients by next year, don't go in, busting through the door like a bull in a china shop. I feel like you really have to sit down, simmer down, and really sit with that person and let them tell you what it is they need. And I find that this goes beyond just the Asia Pacific region, Europe. I think you're going to make a lot more of an impact if you're sitting there and listening, because your experience is wonderful, but until you fully understand what that company needs and you've listened through to what that person is afraid of, why they don't want to sign you, why they don't want to spend the money, or why they're kind of, still have a question mark about why I need this company or whatever it is, it's going to give you the fuel to give a much more pointed response, whether you're following up with them later or whatever it is. I always say to people, the best way to make connections culturally across the world, no matter how much experience you think you have, even if you studied in that country and you know the culture, when you're sitting down with CEOs of companies in different countries, really wait until they ask for you to lead with your expertise. Don't just go in there and drop names about, I worked with UBS and Morgan Stanley, I went to MIT, I did this. I find that with most cultures, it's actually very off-putting. So, and it's something we kind of have to learn, right? Because a lot of the time you want to lead with your experience and the things you've done well. And sometimes we kind of just have to rein ourselves in and wait until they give us that opportunity where they say, so what have you done? Who have you worked with? Where did you go to school? Whatever those things are. That's where I think I've made the most inroads, is actually sitting and waiting for that opportunity. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying sit there and be mute and not express who you are and present yourself. But I think as you really need to learn how to read a room and see how it is. If they're friendly and welcoming and joking around, of course, by all means, follow suit. Don't sit there and in the corner sipping your coffee looking like a deer in the headlights. You really have to be fluid. And it's something that not everybody has, right? Some people are a bit more introverted. Some people are a bit more really rigid professionally. But some of the best things I've learned is really read the room and kind of go with the flow. And, as people are a bit more serious, be a bit more serious. I have a sense of humor. I love to laugh. I love to crack jokes. I realize I sometimes walk into boardrooms here and I'm like, rein it in, Karen. This isn't your personal party.
Same here.
I guess you understand what I'm going through, right? So it's like, some people call it code switching or whatever it is. We don't speak to, when we're with a group of our girlfriends, we don't speak to them the way we would to a board of directors or when we're in an interview. So you just really have to read the room. That's what it means. And culturally and cross-culturally, listening in more has built more relationships for me than me talking.
That's huge. That's huge. And I think that it's important for people. It's humbling. Like, go in, read the room. It's not about you, all about you type thing, So I love that. I love that tidbit. Oh my goodness. I cannot believe that we are already 24 minutes into this. We could keep on going. But one last thing, tell people how they can find you. I know I said your handles earlier, but tell people how they can find you.
Yeah, so the best way to find me is on LinkedIn, Karen Gamba on LinkedIn. That's how you can really make an immediate connection with me, because I have so many different companies under my umbrella. But there is ExV-agency.com, which leads you to some of my other companies. And then thehousingsummit.com, all in one, is the other one. The Housing Summit website kind of changes constantly because we're hosting events in different cities. We hosted one in Hong Kong earlier this year, one in New York. The next one will be in Detroit. So every time you click on the Housing Summit, you're going to see a different page. I make this statement so I'm not confusing anybody. The next one will be somewhere else, but the website changes according to the city.
Well, there you guys have it. And thank you so much, Karen, for being on the show. I really enjoyed speaking with you. This episode is great. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.